Board members, please make sure your mics are on. And we need a motion to come out of recess and then a motion to take this off the table.
I move we come out of recess.
Second.
Discussion, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed?
Aye.
Aye. I move we take case 1626 off the table.
Second.
Discussion, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? Back in session, and the case is back on the table. So we did a site visit. There was no discussion of the case to anyone. We've already gone through the procedures. Board members, I believe where we've left this is I closed the floor for public hearing. So I'll open it up to the board for general discussion, or if we need to open up the public hearing again. So let's just general discussion. Let me know what needs to happen.
So I don't think I need to hear any more evidence. I saw what I need to see, and my conclusion was seeing where that drainage was, where it slopes off more steeply there right at the end near the woods. It actually looked to me like the drainage was could be under a strong rain back into the unwooded grassy area. And when I stretched the tape out there, I think that the building probably could be adjusted some, but no matter where you put it, it's going to, at least by a fraction, maybe smaller fraction, stick out in front of the building. So stick out in front of the main house there. So I really don't see any reason not to approve this application.
Yeah, so with the picture that's up right now, I don't know, we may have a better shot, but I don't know if you guys noticed it, but right about where that picture starts, right about there really was the pretty bad ravine, and that's where I saw the drainage that would start. These pictures, seeing the actual layout versus the picture really did a lot of good. I agree. I think without taking out a whole lot of trees and with that ravine, I'm in favor of the proposed application.
I would be in disagreement. Where we had the tape measure laid out, showed it that it could go back, and calling it a ravine, I think is a little bit extreme, because what I would say is you would not have to take out any trees, and you could have it back to the edge. And not only that, but we know where the current proposed site is, where the blue arrow is on our screen. We know that that falls off, and they're going to have to do a couple feet of fill. I see the front as maybe an extra inches or maybe a foot. I'm not sure how much. And so when you look at it, the question for me is not whether or not it is in front of the house. So if this was coming back and, hey, to fit it in and keep it a distance from the driveway, the cement portion, it was a 2-foot variance. So the difference between 32 feet, especially when you look at how close to the road it is, I would question whether or not it would be adequate. So, because if we're talking about a 30-plus foot boat on the back of a truck who's 18 feet or so, we're talking a 50-foot extension. And if we're talking going from the road backing into a building, the front of that truck is going to be very close to the front of the building coming off the road. So I think that creates actually a safety issue that I'm more concerned with from that standpoint, because you can move the building back and actually have more space to be able to do that. Based on what I saw, even if you decided, hey, I don't want it as close to the road as where the tape was laid out when we were doing the site visit, if you wanted to move it back a couple more feet, you might have to take out a tree or two, which would not be the end of the world on a property with that many trees on it. And so for me, I would say that I believe it can fit within the restrictions laid out in the ordinance, and I would not be in favor of approving this.
So just so I'm clear with that, you do believe that the proposed structure can fit either parallel or behind the primary residence?
I believe so, yes. Because when I laid out and stood and looked at the front of the property and said, here's the front of the porch sticking out, and here is the part going back, the fact that it's 35 feet is a request, not a requirement. okay? So even if you said I wanted to make it 30 feet, well, 35 feet, I believe, could fit, number one. But if you don't believe that, you could shorten the building by a foot or 2 or 3 or whatever you wanted to do. So I believe it absolutely can fit.
I would, I guess I'm in agreement with Mr. I'm in agreement. I think from where the tape was laid out there, 35 feet back, I didn't see quite any issues. I think the drainage area where I observed it is farther back even than that. There's a drop-off there of maybe, I don't know, 8, 12 inches, something like that, but I think that could be accommodated and fall into compliance with the ordinance.
Okay, any other discussion?
The only thing I would say is as I said, I think you could, I would just repeat what I said first. You could adjust this and make the extension past the front of the house less. I do agree with that, but my one other concern, and I don't really believe in public confession, but I'll make one here, is when people talk about the costs, I really don't take that as a factor because I don't see it this board's role to make everybody's desires affordable. So it's not the cost of whether or not you'd have to take down trees or put in rock that I see as making that site that we're discussing that would be completely in compliance acceptable. My concern with that site is that 8 to 12 inches drop off can mean if you're having heavy rains, a lot of water coming through there, and it could undermine a footer of foundation that's going to be higher in the back there. So I have some concern about that and asking this applicant to build in that exact spot.
Yeah, yeah, likewise. My concern is twofold. The obvious concerns. It's the drainage right there, and then the trees, removing the trees.
I'm sorry, people make drainage changes all the time.
Yeah, I know.
And any drainage that would be coming from the front of the way that property lays off as a fairly gentle slope, relatively speaking, I don't see the drainage issue as an issue at all. And if so, you have to put in a little more gravel or something along the side. I think that's part of what you do when you build on a property that's not flat. Any motion I would be making, obviously, would be a motion to deny, so.
Okay, any other discussion? It sounds like we're pretty well split here. No, not at this time. Okay, no further discussion? Okay, I'm willing to take a motion.
Move to deny OC-16-025 because the proposed structure would be in front of the property being the main structure, and based on the site visit, I believe that it can fit within the zoning regulations and not require an additional variance. The variance, or that's based on what was considered only today at the October 20th, 2016 Oldham County Board of Adjustments public hearing and site visit.
Second?
Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed?
No?
Aye. Okay, that motion has fallen on the table for now. Do we have any other motion?
1 second, I do have a
Okay,
motion. Just if I may just take a moment to finish it.
okay.
So I would move to approve the variance because it would not adversely affect the public health, safety, or welfare. It will not alter the essential character of the general vicinity. It will not cause a hazard or nuisance to the public and will not allow any unreasonable circumvention of the requirements of zoning regulations because the site visit indicates any alternative site would still be in front of the primary structure and the proposed structure is in character with the area. I should have prefaced it with the docket number OC 16026 and condition that it only applied to the case brought before us today.
Do you wish to push the condition of no commercial activity on there?
I don't because, I don't do that because it's just in the zoning rules anyway, and so if he wants to do that, he'd have to come back and ask for that, so I don't see the point of it.
Point of clarification, it's 025.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second? I'll second it. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
I'm sorry, any discussion on said motion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed?
Aye.
Eight.
Fails, I mean,
So at this point,
Table
can
it.
I suggest an alternative motion that perhaps a compromise, since we're,
yeah, I heard your motion a moment ago, it's just the same motion was essentially made, one to deny, one to approve. You're at, unless the motion is made that would insert conditions that would be satisfactory to everybody, I don't think we're gonna go any further.
I don't
but,
think the conditions, there are any, it's about,
Other than setback.
it's location.
Yes, location, so.
If the motion fails and it splits, though, doesn't it err in favor of the applicant, so then it is approved?
my understanding.
I'd have to check my rules on that one, so and I can't answer that right now. Typically, if you've got if the motion doesn't pass, or if it's a split, then it goes in favor of the opposition. You know, it's not approved.
That was in favor of the appellant.
Why don't we take a
Let-
short
let me get-
recess?
Yeah, let me look at my rules of order, and then I'll let you know, because that's.
Okay.
That's.
Well, do you want to do that, or do you want to, I'm willing to hear what the proposal is.
The other thing I was wondering is it possible, can we reopen the floor for additional?
We can, if
Just
that
a
would
moment.
help.
You can do that, because he wanted to speak a
Yeah,
moment
but-
ago.
before we do so, my question to those who are in opposition is if the building moves somewhat, so it's not so far out in front, would that sufficiently address your concerns? I know, Rob, you mentioned the safety concern, which I didn't see, but I respect what you see. And is there some other position for this building that would that would address that concern, for instance?
Because it would be tight to fit in there, a variance of a small amount wouldn't cause me issue. Being that it's 32 feet, which causes it to be that much closer to the main road, that causes me issue. So if the,
66 feet from the road,
I understand,
so it's not 32 feet from the road.
it's a 32 feet variance. It's a 32-foot variance is what I'm speaking to. Okay, so if the variance were much less and, 5 feet or less, I could see that would be swing my vote from a no to a yes.
But from 32 to
5 feet or less.
5 feet or less of a variance. Okay, that's what it would take to swing your vote?
Yes.
All right, any other discussion for possible agreements among the board?
Well, I would ask Mike, Rob has thrown out a number 5 feet. Would you have a different number that's closer to the 32 feet that's requested?
Well, let me, I'd like to make a motion to reopen the floor for additional testimony or comments from the applicant.
I'll second.
Okay, any discussion? All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, floor is reopened. Do you wish to call the applicant forward again?
Yes, please.
Hey, hang on, John. So do you have a question for the applicant?
No, yeah, the question is very simple. Mr. Finley, I think you wanted to speak, and I would like to hear what you have to say, please.
Okay. I'm trying to clarify, when Robert said the truck and everything would be out close to the road and within 50 feet or so, the truck won't be attached to the boat in storage. I mean, the truck will be in the shed and the boat will be in the shed. It's just parking that
Side by side.
side by side.
Yeah, I understand that. I'm talking about
Okay.
when you're backing in off the road, if you have a 30-plus foot boat, when you talked about the boat length plus the tongue length, plus the length of the motor and the truck being on the front is what part of my safety concern of moving it up closer to the road would have been.
Oh, well, if I were to back it in, I'd just be backing it out in the yard and then back it up in there. I wouldn't be anywhere close to the road. I'd have to,
Are you saying you would pull the truck forward into your yard, line it up, and then back into the?
that's correct.
Yes, okay.
So let me ask this.
Okay,
Like-
but let me be real honest in terms of my vote. That's not the critical factor for me. Okay, that I understand what you just said, that would be your intent, but I can't just look at your intent. I got to look beyond the property moving down. And so for me, I understand what you're saying. I appreciate what you're saying, but that wouldn't swing my change. It's more about the fact that I believe you can fit it within the rules. And if we wanted to vary outside of the rules by a small amount instead of 32 feet, then I could be persuaded to change.
So let me talk a little bit along the same line. How much space, and we can talk in generalities, does it take, because you're talking about backing in a boat, right? And you're talking about the safety of doing backing in a boat and being on the road or whatever the case. So if we put the proposed structure down parallel to the house, I now think that you're not going to be able to back in a boat parallel to the house unless you move it pretty far away from that house, because you got a pretty big swing to turn, right? And where the driveway is and the gravel space, I don't think is enough space to back in a boat without taking a whole lot of those trees out and putting it pretty far back in there.
Regardless of the way, what he stated is
Just,
that he would pull into the front yard and back it in, no matter where it was at.
Just as a, can I ask a question here? Is this a discussion, or should we be, since we've reopened testimony?
We've reopened testimony, and that's right.
So, Mr. Finley, so when you were sitting there a moment ago, you sounded like you wanted to say something. I'd like to hear what you had to say, sir.
What I had to say was, when I heard Robert speak of I think you said 50 feet or so, I got the impression he thought I was going to be using the shed to attach to the boat to park it back in there.
What-
The truck would be sitting out closer to the highway.
Okay. So are you willing to make some adjustments to this so we could feel comfortable about moving forward with this? And if so, what would they be?
Well, I mean, I guess I have to if I'm going to do it, but I could probably get it back from where I really don't want to put it down close to the house, you know, where we had the tape measure laid out, because then I'm going to have a shed. I got to back out of the garage. I mean, there's going to be a shed, you know, right there, and I just don't want it there. Then I got it on the other side of the shed. I got some yard, and I don't think it's just going to fit and look right.
So these are inconvenience items.
Well, I don't know, they're inconvenient. They're just, I wouldn't build a shed where you propose to build it.
Okay.
Because I don't think it would look right, and I think it would kind of hurt the value of the property. I mean, I don't think it wouldn't look right sitting there, I don't think. And plus it'd be right, you know, you back out, and you're always gonna have a structure right there.
Do you know the distance between where your existing garage is and the end of the gravel space? So if we were to move this parallel to the house, do you have any idea of what that distance would be out from the garage to the end of the gravel area right there at the garage. Do you know what I'm talking about? Let's
Where
see
the
other pictures.
Aggregate starts and the,
For the aggregate, I think it was aggregate. Brooke, do you know what I'm talking about? Right there, that's good enough. So your house, there's the garage. What's the distance between there and there? That space right there. That, right there, what is that distance?
I don't know.
You don't know. Okay.
That's a concrete pad, isn't it?
Yes.
But yeah, I guess it's,
So, I mean, I think that's what I'm hearing Mike and Rob say is put the thing here. And I think what you're saying, John, if I hear correctly, backing a truck out of your garage there, you don't want the shed there. And that's similar to what I'm saying is if you're, Rob, you're talking about a boat, and I don't think there's enough space to pull a boat in like that.
That's not what I'm saying. Let me explain what I'm saying. If you took the building as you see it there, which I think is oversized for this picture, by the way, when you look at it compared to the house,
Yeah.
it's oversized on here. It's not to scale. If you slid it back towards the house and kept it at the same angle, that's why I suggested the 5 foot. So in other words, move it that direction so it stays at the same angle, but it moves that way. I just did the simple math in my head of 25 by 35 and did that. That's why I said, well, if you slid it, and so it's not squared, it turns, you would need another 5 foot. It's where the 5 foot number came from. You'd need under 5 foot to make it so that you could just slide that back farther. So then it wouldn't look like it's so much in front of the house.
As a guy who backs trailers and is pretty bad at it, those angles are the challenge, and I couldn't do it without tearing up the yard, but
Well, that's what he's gonna be doing. He's gonna be driving in the yard. That's what he stated in his testimony.
I would just, maybe we're at an impasse and we need to find out what the resultant votes mean to Mr. Finley.
That's exactly right. So we have two options here. We can just continue discussion and until we are in agreement. And if we're not, that's exactly right. We have, we can take a recess and let John see what it means for a split vote.
As staff, I am required to remain neutral, but I think I can point out that as a board, you can make motions based on visual integrity and the aesthetics of the lot. That shouldn't be the most important thing, but you can take that into account. And I think after going out there, you could see that it's pretty well tree lined up through here and along here. So if you move it backwards to where Rob is talking about, that's going to be
So
much
Brooke, hang
more
on.
visible from 42 than his proposed location, which seems to make the most sense.
I disagree.
Okay, all
Okay,
right. So,
well, that's all. That's why I said.
all right. So any further discussion? I think I think we are at an impasse and we need to get John to take a look at what a split vote means.
Well, what it means is you have a motion to approve or disapprove. If it is a tie vote, the motion fails. Simple as that. Because you have to approve by a majority, and nothing less than a majority can approve the motion. So it basically fails, and so.
So there is no
you-
variance granted, is what you're saying.
Variance?
That's what this is. This is a
It's not been
variance.
approved or denied, yeah, he's,
No, it's not been approved, it's not been denied,
So there is none. There is no variance approved.
there is no variance approved. Because the motion fails if, it has to take a majority, one way or the other, to approve it or to deny it, one way or the other. There's just no resolution, let's put it that way. The motion fails, let's use that word. The motion fails if it's a tie vote.
okay.
All right, can I move to close the floor from additional testimony?
Second.
Any discussion? Thank you. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Floor is closed. Yeah, Mike?
No, I was just going to say,
Thank you.
So, given the position of the board members as stated, if we make a motion to approve it, one choice would be to make a motion to approve it for the 5 foot variance and allow the applicant to take that and do what he chooses with that, whether he chooses to build the structure or not. Then we would have an approved motion, although I'm not happy with that. Clearly, we see it differently, and I'm accept that. That's no problem. But we could at least give the applicant something to go home with.
The alternative is he gets no variance.
The alternative is, that's
Well,
exactly right.
and I, just as a preface to that course of action, I just would say, I mean, to me, 5 feet really doesn't do anything to address what I saw on the site. I agree, it doesn't necessarily have to be 30 feet, but I think, I really don't think, in principle, you're changing anything if you say 5 feet versus 30 feet. But again, that's just me, and that's.
The difference between my vote is it does seem to change the principle
No, I'm
to
not, I'm
me,
not arguing with
so.
you, I'm not criticizing you either, I'm just
understand.
trying to find a middle ground for us, is all. I mean, I would have said 20 feet, but I'm not, you did explain why you felt 5 feet was reasonable, but I just saw the property differently.
If we leave the decisions as they are today, the applicant can,
Do nothing.
no, he can build what,
No.
but he just,
Can't.
Yeah,
in
he can.
compliance with.
In
Once he builds in
compliance.
compliance,
In
he
compliance,
should
that's right.
build.
Oh,
yeah.
well, he can build in compliance,
Yes,
absolutely.
that's so.
I would ask you, Mike, is there a number that, between 5 and 30, that you're comfortable with?
My answer to that question wouldn't be a straightforward answer, and it really gets into just my beliefs about the Board of Appeals altogether, and I don't think that this is a place for that particular conversation.
But is there a number, I understand and I agree with what you said, but is there a number that you would vote for? Bigger than 5 and smaller than 30?
All right, I'll answer the question this way. I think that what he wants to build, he can build, and he can build it within compliance of the
So
zoning
your number's
ordinance.
0?
My number at this point is 0.
Okay.
All right, very good. So does anybody else have any other motion to make?
I'll make a motion, same motion as before, for the 5 foot, and that's the best we're gonna give the applicant.
I would ask
again,
that a condition added that no commercial activity be conducted out of the building.
Would you like to make that motion then? I mean, I'm happy to defer on
No,
that.
you're
Okay.
the one that made the positive motion, that same motion, you're
Okay,
just saying
all
the
right,
5 feet.
all right.
That's
Move-
fine.
Move to approve, I, in the case of OC 16025, I got that right this time? Move to approve the variance because it would not adversely affect the public health, safety, or welfare, will not alter the essential character or of the general vicinity, will not cause a hazard or nuisance to the public, and will not allow an unreasonable circumvention of the requirements of the zoning regulation, because the site visit indicates any alternative sites would still, well, I need to change that, don't I? With the condition, we'll just stop, because of testimony given concerning the drainage, with the conditions that the variance is for 5 feet. And
No commercial use.
since he's gonna make it anyway, I'll add the clause about the commercial property, though, the no commercial activity. Did I catch all the points there?
Only applies for today's meeting.
Okay.
Second.
All right, any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Those opposed?
Aye.
It's been granted with a variance up to 5 feet.
All right, you've already approved your minutes and everything else. We will have a meeting next month. We've already received 2 applications, so you will have those 2 and the reconsideration of the approval for the one on Dawson Ridge. So far we have 3 for next month.
What was the last one you said?
Dawson Ridge.
Training. I know I didn't give you a heads up on this. Do you happen to know where we are in training? Is anybody in jeopardy of training? And if not, can you bring that
Don't
next
know.
time?
I can send an email out to
email.
everyone to let you know. I did send the email out about the training at KIPTA for those that wanted to attend. So,
Just let everybody know where we are.
yep, I'll send you an email.
Thank
That's
you.
it.
Okay. Can I get a motion to adjourn?
I move to adjourn the Board of Adjustments meeting of Thursday, October the 20th.
Second?
Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Those opposed? Meeting adjourned.
Shall recycle that.
Can you recycle these? All right.
Well, I brought the